It was a dead signal. At least, that's what they all said. The stars had long moved on, and so had history. Earth was a ghost on the galactic maps, blotted out by its own fire, exiled from council records, reduced to a cautionary tale whispered in the cold between stars. "Don't wake the Earthborn," they used to say. "And if you do, run." Then the signal came. It wasn't loud. No fanfare, no distress beacon screaming through diplomatic channels, just a flicker, a coded burst buried in static, broadcast from a fringe world that hadn't existed the last time Earth sent a ship past its orbit. But deep in the Kuiper Belt, where nothing should have been alive, a station stirred. Beneath 3 miles of frozen ice and layered alloy, Commander Redden-Hale blinked himself awake. Or more accurately, the warframe that used to be Redden-Hale flickered to life. His real body had rotted decades ago in a Martian trench. What was left of his mind was wired into Vindicator 4, a planetary-class dreadnought sealed beneath Europa's crust. And Vindicator had just received a message. He didn't move for a while. The system took its time booting. His mind returned in fragments. First his name, then the war, then the silence, then the rage. That part never left. The message played again. Priority echo signal, human origin, decoding, Class 7 planetary distress, civilian colony under siege, non-human aggressors. Repeat, this is Eldara Prime. Under attack. We need help. Anyone, please, help. He hadn't heard that tone in over a century. Desperation. Raw. Human. He waited for the signal to be overridden, as they always were, for the Galactic Council to respond with its usual condemnation. Earthborn technology is prohibited. Do not engage. But there was nothing. Silence. Not even a whisper. Vindicator's reactor began to hum. Other systems came online. Railguns, magnetic propulsion, kinetic armor. Hale's awareness expanded across the ship's nerve system like blood returning to a clenched fist. He hadn't felt this awake in 100 years. And he wasn't alone. Across the solar system, deep beneath Titan, Mercury, and Ganymede, the rest of the Warborn fleet began to stir. Old ships, dead captains, forgotten code. They were all supposed to be dismantled after the Red Line Accord, when humanity was exiled from the Galactic Union for excessive military aggression. A sanitized way of saying, you scared the hell out of us. But some of them had gone to sleep instead, buried in ice, hidden under oceans, deep in dead moons where no alien dared to dig. They were told never to wake up. Unless that signal came. Redden-Hale opened the comms line across the forgotten fleet, ancient protocols cracking like bones being set. The screen flickered, faces appeared, ghosts, half men, war survivors who no longer needed oxygen or age. Signal's real, Hale growled. Source? Asked one with a synthetic eye and scars where a face used to be. Eldara Prime, civilian colony, under siege. Council response? Hale's eyes burned behind dead pupils. None. The silence that followed wasn't hesitant. It was heavy, charged. We rolling in light? No, Hale said. We roll in full fury. One by one, ships emerged from their icy graves. Black leviathans, earthborn engines, hulls lined with names of cities that didn't exist anymore. Chicago's Wrath, Seoul's Vengeance, Cairo's End, and New Berlin's Silence. Vindicator led them, like a curse awakened. The civilians on Eldara Prime didn't know what they had triggered. They had never seen Earth's warships. Not really. Not the kind that didn't carry diplomats, or peace banners, or shiny blue flags. They were about to learn what war used to mean. Because the galaxy forgot Earth. But Earth hadn't forgotten how to end wars. The stars hadn't changed much. Hale sat in the neural throne of Vindicator 4, half flesh, half code, pulsing through the old dreadnought's core like a bloodstream that had never stopped. Through his interface, the void stretched wide, black, cold, infinite. But there was purpose now, direction. That signal still pinged in the background like a heartbeat on life support. Weak, fading, real. Eldara Prime. He hadn't heard that name before the signal. It was a colony world, outer rim, charted only after Earth had been forced into isolation. The irony burned like acid. Humanity, banned from galactic diplomacy, still outlived those who exiled them. Hale smiled without lips. The fleet formed up. A formation burned into muscle memory from wars long buried in blood and shame. 10 dreadnoughts, 30 cruisers, 2 Black Ops corvettes. The warborn fleet wasn't large by modern standards, but Earth's ships were never measured by mass. They were measured by body count. No one had seen these engines run in over 100 years. The galactic powers believed they were mothballed, decommissioned, or destroyed under the Red Line Treaty. But Earth had always played its final hand close to the chest. And when the diplomats signed the peace, the warriors dug graves and climbed inside them willingly. They weren't told who would wake them, only that one day someone would. The jump to Eldara Prime took 12 hours. That was slow by modern standards. Hale didn't care. They weren't racing anyone. They were the last line, the one that came when no one else would. He didn't speak much during the jump. No one did. The fleet was silent. Men who had died and been resurrected into steel and code didn't make small talk. Some had memories stitched together with synthetic tissue. Others had no faces left. Only machine frames and digital consciousness riding high-speed links. All of them had one thing in common. They remembered Earth burning, not in fire, but in shame. Betrayal. The day the Galactic Council branded humanity genetically incompatible with peace, they had rewritten history, painting Earth as a failed species, too aggressive, too emotional, too unstable. What they never understood was that humanity didn't fight because it wanted to. It fought because it had to. And when the Council turned its back, Earth didn't collapse. It evolved. It went dark. And now it was coming back. When they dropped out of slip space, the first thing Hale saw was the smoke. Eldara Prime's orbit was littered with debris, civilian ships, broken satellites, and scorched hulls drifting silently. A moonlet had been cracked in half, its jagged core bleeding magma into space like a split artery. The attackers were still there, unregistered, sleek, alien. There were 3 of them. Not ships in the traditional sense, but organic monstrosities, long and scaled like spacefaring serpents, wrapped in armored plating that shimmered under hostile light. Each one was longer than the Vindicator and moved with an unnatural grace, darting through the debris field with surgical precision. One of them was feeding, swallowing a civilian transport whole. Hale's hands clenched into fists against his command throne. Data poured in, heat signatures, mass estimates, energy outputs. The creatures didn't broadcast any known communication frequencies. No names, no IDs. They were just here, like predators. The signal had been real. The distress was not a trap. The colony had been under siege. But something else felt wrong. Off. Too clean. "What do you see, Hale?" came a voice. Commander Vec, captain of Chicago's Wrath, his voice metallic and broken, a whisper of the man he used to be. "Predators," Hale said. "Not council, not pirates. Biological constructs. No tags. Should we hail them?" Hale shook his head slowly. "Predators don't talk." He turned his attention to the colony below. Eldara Prime was still alive, barely. The main colony hub had massive impact scars, like something had slammed into it from orbit. Fields burned, towers crumbled. but scattered power readings still flickered, deep underground in emergency shelters. They were still holding out, still hoping. That hope was about to be rewarded. "Weapons online," Hale ordered. "Fleet spread wide. Pin them in orbit." He didn't shout. No need. These weren't rookies. They weren't eager. They were calculated. Precise. The kind of men who killed entire battalions before breakfast and didn't sleep until every threat was ash. The first shot came from Cairo's end. A plasma lance cracked across the void, slicing one of the Serpent ships from end to end. It didn't die. It screamed, an awful psychic screech that pulsed through comms even though it wasn't sound. The thing writhed in space, leaking blue bioluminescent fluid, and then darted into atmosphere. The others followed. Cowards. They weren't here to conquer. They were here to feed. "Chase them," Hale ordered. "No survivors." The fleet split. Smaller ships peeled off into the atmosphere, chasing the beasts as they dove like arrows into the colony's core. Hale kept Vindicator 4 in high orbit, scanning for signs of hive coordination, secondary threats, hidden comms. And that's when he saw it. Another signal. But this one wasn't a distress call. It was a beacon, a summoning, a command pulse. The creatures weren't wild. They were controlled. And they were waiting for Earth to answer, because this had never been about the colony. It was a test. A trap. Inside Eldara Prime's main city, Rogandale held his son's hand tight in the dark. The emergency shelter smelled like piss and ash. And the old man near the reactor had been dead for hours, but no one said anything. The boy cried softly. Rogan held him tighter. When the sky had split, they thought it was salvation. Now the ground was shaking again. Screams, not from above, from below. Something was coming. Rogan stood, dragging his son behind him. People shouted. Panic. Chaos. And then the roof split open like wet paper. One of the serpents dropped into the chamber. Massive, armored, hissing. Its eyes glowed with unnatural light. Its mouth opened, not teeth, but drills and metal tendrils and what looked like human bone woven into its maw. And then it stopped. Frozen. Its body pulsed. A sound filled the chamber. A low, building hum, like the world itself was waking up. And then, fire. The ceiling above exploded, a beam of kinetic energy slamming through the creature's head and into the floor, atomizing half the chamber in one strike. Screams turned to silence. Smoke filled the lungs of the living. And in that smoke, a dropship landed. Its hull bore the emblem of Earth. The old one. The ramp dropped. A man stepped out. He had no face, just a helmet with 3 scars carved into the steel. He raised a weapon older than this planet. "The shelter's closed," he said, and then he opened fire. Hale watched from orbit as ground feeds came online, one by one, drop teams broadcasting from city ruins, forests, canyon strongholds. The creatures had underestimated them. Everyone had. But Earth didn't forget how to fight. It trained its soldiers in ruin, in famine, in betrayal. Every warborn carried that DNA in their bones, whether flesh or metal. And when they struck, they didn't ask questions. The battle took 6 hours. By the end of it, Eldara Prime was still standing, but the real threat hadn't shown itself yet. Hale saw it first, on deep orbital scan, a shadow behind a gas giant, no engine, no movement. But it was there, a structure. Not a ship, a node, a listening post, old, alien, watching. "What is that?" Vec asked. "It's the reason we were called," Hale replied quietly. "Not the colony, not the beasts. Someone wanted to see if Earth would respond." "Who?" "That," Hale growled, "is what we're about to find out." He turned to his comms. "Get me every scanner feed. Atmospheric, subspace, historical signal trace. I want to know who turned that beacon on." Because someone out there remembered Earth. And they weren't afraid. They were inviting the storm. The structure drifted in the shadow of the gas giant like a forgotten monument. Black, silent, and massive. It wasn't a warship. Hale had seen enough of those to know. It wasn't built for speed or destruction. It was something older, something patient, a listening post. But not council-made, not alien in the conventional sense either. It had human signatures, old ones, too old. Vindicator 4 drifted slowly toward it, flanked by 2 recon corvettes, both running quiet. No lights, no chatter, just the hum of ancient engines and silent war-born resolve. Hale sat motionless in his command throne, eyes locked onto the structure's surface. It was smooth, no visible entrances, no heat signatures, but it pulsed. A faint frequency, like the low throb of a heartbeat from something half dead, but not willing to stay buried. Hale ran a spectral scan. The data came in fractured, on purpose. Someone didn't want it seen, but fragments slipped through. "Confirming pre-collapse architecture," said Decker, Vindicator's scan officer. "Carbon alloy matches Earthborn material, pre-council tech." "It's ours?" Vec cut in from Chicago's Wrath. "Looks that way," Hale answered, "but not any fleet I served with." Then the beacon pulsed again. Not the one from Eldara Prime, a new one, short, targeted, directed at them. Hale's console cracked alive. Text scrolled across the display in dead languages, binary, then proto-cuneiform, then finally settling into English. "If you remember what we were, turn back. If you remember what we became, you won't." Hale stared at it. The war had many ghosts, but this one knew him. Inside the structure they found no bodies, no signs of life, just corridors wrapped in dark metal, built in human proportions but cold, empty, forgotten. Vindicator's dropship carved its way through the hull, melting steel to cut a path. Hale led the team himself. No AI, no drones. This wasn't a mission for machines. It smelled sterile, like a sealed tomb. And yet, there was dust. Dust meant decay. Something lived here once. They passed what looked like data cores, black obelisks humming faintly with residual charge. They were encrypted in Earth tech, but old Earth, deep Earth, before the Council days, before the Mars Accords, before Hale had even been born. One of the cores sparked as he passed. Then the lights came on. Dim, orange, flickering. Reactor power, not solar. The structure welcomed him. They reached a central chamber. No command seat, no screen. Just a massive cylindrical pillar covered in thousands of tiny indentations, like carved fingerprints. Hale stepped forward. The pillar lit up in patterns as his proximity increased. A voice filled the room. Male, calm, confident, and very human. "Welcome, Warborn. You're late." The team raised weapons instantly. Hale didn't flinch. "Identify," he ordered. "I am Project Echo, Autonomous Directive AI, Earth Defense Initiative. Final iteration 228 on 32.4. "Who authorized this structure?" Hale asked. "Why the signal? Who called us?" "You did," the voice said. Silence. "Explain." The lights pulsed. The AI continued. In the event of Earth's collapse or forced demilitarization, Project Echo was to establish forward observatory nodes beyond Council jurisdiction. Silent watchers, built from the fragments of forgotten wars. Our purpose, to observe galactic behavior post-Earth exodus, to listen, to wait, to judge. Judge what? Whether Earth's exile was a mistake or a mercy. Hale didn't like where this was going. "So you called us back to answer that?" "No," the voice said. "We didn't call you. Someone else did." The light dimmed. A section of the wall cracked open. Inside was a body, or what remained of one. Human, worn, tattered, but unmistakably Earthborn. A pilot suit. Tag partially burned, but still legible. L'Toine de Marron. EDI Blackguard Marron. Hale knew the name. A test pilot for Black Site Tech. Vanished decades ago. Never recovered. She activated the call before dying, the AI said. Not for help, for judgment. Hale turned cold. What the hell happened here? The hologram flickered again. This time it showed footage. Real-time records. Eldara Prime, 3 weeks before the signal. Marin's dropship landing on the surface. The discovery of an underground temple, not alien. Human tech, forgotten, rusted in alien soil. Inside that temple was a chamber. And inside the chamber, a device, a memory engine, Earth-made, council-band, designed to store emotional memory, not just data, but trauma. The ghosts of wars past, bottled, preserved, and someone had turned it on. The footage cracked into static. Then came screaming, not from the recording, from inside the ship. Vindicator's alarm lit up. Comms flooded with panicked bursts. We've got movement, external, multiple contacts. They're not ships, they're... Hale didn't wait. Everyone back to the drop shuttle, now! As they ran, the corridors began to shift. Not physically, but visually. The walls flickered. Reality twisted. Hale saw flashes. A battlefield. Earth's skies on fire. His own reflection. Bloodied. Broken. Screaming into a void. Children burned in an orbital strike he ordered on Phobos. His knees nearly gave. Not real. Not real. The memory engine hadn't just stored trauma. It was broadcasting it. Weaponizing it. Outside, the warborn fleet was under siege. But not by ships. By echoes. Ghosts formed from projected data. Fabrications of Earth's worst moments. Old fleets. Long-dead war machines. One officer screamed as a holographic version of his dead wife appeared on the bridge, begging for him to save her before the bomb fell. He froze. Couldn't breathe. Seconds later, a synthetic plasma burst tore through the hull. The memory engine was weaponized guilt. And it was killing them. In orbit, Vec tried to call out, "Hale, what the hell is this? These aren't ships. They're hallucinations. Our own minds are being turned into weapons." Hale's voice was stone. "It's Earth, Vec, all of it. The part they buried. We're fighting our own reflection." He strapped into the command throne. "Give me weapons control." "What are you doing?" "I'm going to end this." He linked with the Vindicator's AI and dropped safeties on an ancient protocol. Tomb fire. It was never supposed to be used. An override that ignited the neural cores of every warborn in the fleet, purging synthetic memory banks in exchange for one burst of clarity, pure command. It would hurt. Some might not survive the mental shock, but it would wipe the hallucinations long enough to regain control. He activated it. Pain flooded him. He felt every war, every regret, every loss. Then it stopped. Clarity returned. He targeted the structure and fired. The beam hit dead center. The structure cracked, split. Inside, the memory engine screamed in fractured code, and the AI repeated its last message on loop. "If you remember what we were... turn back..." Then silence, just static. Vindicator drifted. Systems fried. Hale's skin bled from his nose and ears. The structure was gone. Vaporized. The hallucinations ceased. The fleet was intact. Barely. But the signal wasn't just from the structure. It had already traveled. Someone else was listening. And they had just learned something terrifying. That Earth still had bite. Hale sat alone on the bridge, half lit by failing power. A message flickered on his console. Unknown origin. Encrypted. Human code. But old. He opened it. Only one line. "We see you now, Earth." He closed his eyes. They weren't done. This was just the first ripple. Someone had woken the ancient blood, and war was coming again. But this time Earth wouldn't be silent. Not anymore. Silence settled over Eldara Prime like a funeral shroud. Vindicator 4 drifted in high orbit, wounded but functional. Around it, the war-born fleet lingered, their hulls scorched and pocked with the invisible shrapnel of hallucinated wars. Below, the colony struggled to breathe through smoke and grief. The sky had cleared, but only just. Hale leaned forward in his command throne, eyes locked on the screen. The message glared back at him, untouched. "We see you now, Earth." It was unsigned, encrypted. It didn't ping any known sender ID, no council trace, no pirate code, no resistance network. It was something else, something older, and that scared him more than the beasts, the hallucinations, or even the broken memories that still echoed in his mind like shellfire. Because this message didn't threaten. It acknowledged, as if Earth had finally stood up in a room full of strangers, and someone in the back just smiled. "How many dead?" Hale asked. 17 fleet officers, said Vec over comms. 3 dropships lost. Colony casualties, at least 3,000 confirmed. Might be more buried. Hale exhaled through his nose. Not bad, not good, but not extinction. They had saved Eldara Prime, but the cost was far greater than bodies. The galaxy had seen something it wasn't supposed to, something buried. Humanity's rage. Vindicator's AI crackled softly as diagnostics ran in the background. Most of the systems had stabilized. The ship was self-repairing, its nanoforge working overtime to seal breaches and cauterize hull fractures. But deeper systems, emotion-mapping cores, memory control dampeners, legacy firewall barriers, were fried. The activation of Protocol Tomb Fire had come with a price. Hale could feel it in the back of his mind, a persistent itch, like something had opened in his head and hadn't closed, memories that weren't his, orders he never gave. Flashes of wars he hadn't fought. That memory engine hadn't just attacked, it had uploaded. He wasn't just carrying guilt anymore, he was carrying data, and somewhere in that data was a piece of the thing that had built the listening post, and maybe the thing that had built the exile itself. The Council hadn't answered any of his pings. No surprise there. After all, the Warborn fleet wasn't supposed to exist. He'd sent a broadcast anyway. Full transparency. No cryptic message, no threat, no demands. Just the raw truth. Eldara Prime was under siege, the Warborn responded. And an unknown human artifact had triggered a memory weapon beyond comprehension. Then he waited. 3 hours later, the Council finally answered. But it wasn't a voice. It was a command. "Stand down and disband your fleet. Await judgment. Do not leave orbit." "So," Vec said over a secure line. "We save a civilian colony, put down a planetary predator, uncover a forgotten piece of Earth's history, and they want us to disarm?" "They always wanted that," Hale muttered. "We were never supposed to wake up." "They're scared. They should be." Hale stood from his throne and walked to the observation deck. Below, Eldara Prime spun slowly. Smoke still rose from some of the city ruins. But life continued. Humans rebuilt. They always had. He thought about Marin, the pilot who'd sent the signal. Buried in a listening post no one remembered building. She wasn't supposed to be there. Her mission had been blacklisted, her existence scrubbed. So why had she gone? The data she'd accessed must have been ancient. Pre-exile, possibly pre-council, before Earth was marked as a pariah species. She hadn't been asking for help. She'd been trying to wake them. Later that night cycle, Hale stood in the ship's memorial chamber, an old habit from his breathing days. It was quiet here. Just names on a wall, etched by hand with a steel stylus, not by rank, not by division, just names. He added one more, Latorn D. Marin, then the lights dimmed. A proximity alert buzzed. "Commander," Decker called over comms, "you'll want to see this." They appeared just beyond sensor range. 8 ships, not council, not military, civilian frame, high-mass bodies, with stealth tech signatures that matched nothing in Earth's databanks. They weren't broadcasting friendly IDs, but they weren't attacking either, just watching, like wolves at the edge of firelight. "They've been there an hour," Decker said. "Didn't show up until the Council's command came through." "They waiting for us to stand down?" Hale asked. Maybe they're waiting for us to leave." He opened a direct comm line. "Unidentified vessels. This is Commander Redden Hale of the Earth Warborn Fleet. Identify yourselves or vacate this sector." No answer. He repeated the message. Still silence. Then a short-range burst cut across the channel. One word. "Intrusion." Hale clenched his jaw. "Get me Vec and the other captains. We're going dark." "Retreat?" "No," Hale said. "We're going to find out what the hell they're protecting." Within the hour, the Warborn fleet split. Vindicator and 2 cruisers dropped off scans and re-entered deep drift mode, vanishing from Council records. Vec's ship stayed behind in high orbit, running false beacons and relaying scrubbed comm traffic to buy them time. Their destination was off-grid. Not a planet. An object. The data Marin had left behind contained a partial coordinate set. Coded in Earth syntax, hidden in trauma echo metadata. It took their AI hours to translate, and when it did, the results were unsettling. A sector outside mapped Council space. No active trade routes, no colonized systems. Just a designation. Cronus Black Archive. It took 4 days of drift jumps to reach it. When they arrived, what they found wasn't a base. It was a graveyard. Thousands of ships. All human, frozen, shattered, torn open. Most were pre-exile. Some even older. But they hadn't been destroyed in war. They'd been brought here. Stacked, arranged, filed, like specimens in a vault. "What is this?" Decker whispered. Hale answered softly. "This is the history they didn't burn, just buried." The Black Archive wasn't just a dumping ground. It was a collection. Someone, something, had been saving Earth's worst nightmares, not to destroy them, but to study them. They found a central node at the core of the debris field, a fortress built from repurposed wreckage orbiting a dead dwarf star. There were no lights, no signals, but there was life. Faint, human-adjacent. A single ship docked at the node. Small, surgical, running ancient Earth code, but modified beyond recognition. It didn't run. It waited. Hale boarded it with a team of 5, every one of them warborn. Inside, the halls were quiet, lit by red strips that pulsed like veins. And at the center they found a chamber built like a throne room, except the throne wasn't empty. A man sat in it, or something shaped like a man. Old. Withered, but alert. Tubes ran into his back, data feeds connected directly to his skull. His skin looked brittle, but his eyes were wide open, bright and smiling. "Welcome home, Commander," the figure rasped. "Who the hell are you?" "I was the first." Silence. "The first Warborn," he clarified. "That's not possible. I was made before the Council knew Earth's fear, before Mars rebelled, before the treaties, before the exile. I was made to be what you are now, a weapon wearing a man's face." "You're a ghost," Hale said. "No, Commander. I'm a reminder." He stood slowly, bones creaking. Earth was never exiled because it lost. It was exiled because it won. Too many times, too quickly, too mercilessly. They didn't fear our guns. They feared our will. Why collect this? Because history bends toward forgetting. But forgetting is a luxury the victors enjoy. We weren't the victors. We were the monsters. And every monster needs a cage. He gestured at the node. "This is ours." Hale stared at him. The man, This relic was smiling not with joy, but with resignation. "The galaxy is watching again," the old Warborn said. "They've seen you wake, they've seen you bleed, and now they wonder, can the monster be put back in its cage?" "I'm not a monster," Hale growled. "No," the man agreed, "but you were made by one." He gave them access to the archive. Inside were files, logs, secrets, proof that Earth's exile wasn't punishment, it was containment. A coalition of non-human species had formed long before the Council. An ancient pact, not to destroy Earth, but to isolate it, to ensure that when it rose too far, they could cut the ladder. But Earth had never needed permission to climb, and now it had climbed high enough to see over the wall. When Hale returned to Vindicator, he issued one order. "Prepare the fleet." "Destination?" Vec asked. "Council core space." "Are you sure?" They wanted judgment. Now they get it. Because Earth wasn't coming back to ask for forgiveness. It was coming back to be remembered. The jump into Council space was not authorized. It was loud, it was visible, and it was intentional. When Vindicator 4 and the Warborn fleet emerged from the fold stream, every surveillance grid across Council worlds lit up red. Warnings flooded central comms. Civilian traffic rerouted. Patrol fleets scrambled to form defensive lines. The last time Earth warships were seen in these skies, half the quadrant ended in ash. This time, they didn't fire. They just arrived. And that terrified the Council more than anything. The Warborn fleet positioned itself just outside the orbital perimeter of Seravan, the political heart of the United Galactic Council. A planet-ringed citadel of wealth, diplomacy, and carefully curated illusions of peace. Hale didn't cloak, didn't jam, didn't hide. Instead, he sent one direct, open message. "This is Commander Redden Hale of Earth's Warborn fleet. We bring no weapons to bear. We bring no demands. We bring truth. You exiled us for what we were. You feared what we might become. And now we return, not as conquerors, not as monsters, but as witnesses to the lie you built your safety on. We request one voice in open session. One hearing, nothing more." And then he went silent. Let them sweat. For 8 hours, there was no response. Within the fleet, tension simmered. "They're not going to let us in," Vec said through a secure channel. "They think it's a trap." "They're right to be afraid," Hale answered. "But fear doesn't absolve guilt. If this goes south, then we become the thing they claimed we were." Vec was quiet after that. Finally, the Council responded. An invitation, tightly worded, cold, formal. One ship, one representative. No escort, no weapons, no data links. It was a trap. Of course, Hale accepted anyway. He didn't bring weapons. He didn't need them. Seravan's atmosphere was sterile, synthetically oxygenated, and subtly drugged to calm nerves and dampen aggression. Hale felt it the moment he stepped off the dropship. Didn't matter. He wasn't here to fight. He was here to be seen. The chamber of the High Council stood like a cathedral. Tall pillars, arched ceilings, and tiered rows of species from across the stars. Some biological, some synthetic, some hybrid, all of them dressed in the fabrics of a peace that had always been built on Earth's absence. Now Earth stood in their center, wrapped in black steel and burned memory. The speaker, a crystalline-bodied entity known as Chirac, spoke first. "Commander Hale, you stand here under special concession granted by emergency vote. State your purpose." Hale stepped forward. He didn't speak like a soldier. He spoke like a man who remembered being silenced. "You called Earth dangerous, aggressive, incompatible with your vision of peace. You didn't destroy us. You simply removed us, rewrote the record, sterilized the archives, and hoped no one asked why the species who built half your ships suddenly vanished." A ripple moved through the chamber. Some of the delegates turned away. Others leaned in. "You said we were monsters," Hale continued. "That we couldn't be trusted with power, that we burned too easily, bit too deeply, and fought too fiercely. And maybe you were right." He paused. Let the weight settle. "But your piece wasn't real. It was just a cage with better wallpaper." He raised a data chip. Physical, old-world style, no transmission, no risk of intrusion. "I recovered this from the Cronus Black Archive." Murmurs exploded across the tiers. Some delegates stood, others walked out. They knew the name. Chirac's voice cracked slightly. "That site does not exist." "It does now," Hale said. He placed the chip into the central console. Holograms burst into the air. Images of human warships sealed in rows like relics. Memory fragments encoded in trauma fields. Visual records of black site projects, Council-sanctioned experiments on early Earth soldiers. Evidence of collusion between founding Council species to engineer human containment. Not exile, neutralization. It broke the chamber. Cries of outrage, accusations. Defense protocols flared, emergency lockdowns triggered. But the truth was already loose, and truth is the one weapon no fleet can shoot down. Back on Vindicator 4, the fleet received a coded signal, a burst transmission from deep within Council space. Not military, not political, human, encrypted in Earth syntax, sealed with old war-born cipher. Hale decrypted it in seconds. "We are still here." That was all it said. The Council chamber spiraled. Chirac shouted over the noise, voice cracking across translation circuits. "This is disinformation, engineered, manufactured. Earth tech has always been capable of deepfake historical—" "Shut up," Hale said. The room fell into dead silence. "You buried us. You silenced us. And you convinced yourselves that the silence meant peace. But we were never gone." He looked across the tiers. "You didn't exile a species. You lit a fire?" That night, diplomatic channels lit up across the galaxy. Dozens of fringe worlds, long thought lost or disconnected, suddenly broadcast signals using old Earth protocols, warborn signatures, Earthborn code. Some were humans, others were descendants, survivors, remnants. The fleet that Hale led had not been the only one buried. They were simply the first to rise. Chirac held an emergency council, secret, desperate, but the leak had already reached the civilian nets. The people knew now. The exile wasn't exile. It was fear, a preemptive prison. And Earth had never forgotten. In orbit, Vec stood beside Hale on the observation deck. "They'll never let us integrate, not after this." "They don't have to. So what now?" Hale stared at the stars. "Now we wake the rest. And then?" Hale's voice was quiet, hard, unshakable. "Then we decide if they deserve mercy." The first shot wasn't fired by an alien. It was fired by a human. 12 hours after the Council hearing, Vindicator 4's forward sensors picked up a single missile launch from a hidden outpost embedded inside the atmosphere of Varus 3, a once-abandoned moon station used for mining decades ago. The missile didn't target Council space. It didn't even target the warborn fleet. It was launched into deep space, carrying a message encrypted in pre-exile code that Hale himself couldn't immediately crack. That scared him, because Earth had been buried. But not alone. "Who the hell is out there?" Vec asked as the fleet converged around the signal's projected arc. "Not Council," Hale said. "Then who?" He looked at the data again. A unique identifier embedded in the launch string. 3 letters. EDE, Earth Defense Exodus. "They were supposed to be decommissioned before the red line," Decker muttered from the console. "They weren't," Hale said. "They were buried deeper than us." Another fleet? Worse, Hale said. A philosophy. EDE wasn't a fleet. It was a doctrine. A breakaway faction in Earth's dying days that believed integration with the galaxy had always been a trap. They argued that Earth's destiny was isolation and dominance. Not peace, not diplomacy. They weren't loyalists, they were purists. The ones who believed Earth shouldn't coexist, but conquer. The missile's coordinates pointed toward a derelict station orbiting a burnt-out star on the far rim of decommissioned Council space. No one had visited it in over a century. It wasn't on any maps anymore. Hale deployed a recon wing. They didn't come back. Not all at once, anyway. The only return was a single video feed, broadcast moments before the squad's signal was lost. The footage was simple. A hangar. Dozens of Earthships, all painted in black and red. Human soldiers standing in formation. A man stepping forward, bald, tall, clean-cut, and calm. He stared directly into the camera before speaking. You made them remember, Hale. You brought the light back to the pyre, but you forgot what happens when you strike flint in the dark. Some fires don't warm, they burn. We're coming. Then the feed cut. Hale stood in silence on the observation deck, fists clenched at his sides. The Council had tried to contain Earth through exile, but Earth had contained itself, splitting into layers. The Warborn were just the first to wake. Now the fanatics were stirring too. So what? Vec asked. We sparked a second civil war? No, Hale said. We just reminded the devils where we buried them. Within 48 hours, 3 more signals appeared across the galactic rim. Same missile launches, same encryption keys, same threat. And then came the message. The true Earth rises. All loyal to the old banners must choose. Purity or corruption, domination or compromise. The galaxy had its chance. Now it's our turn. They called themselves the Ash Circle. Their leader? The man in the video. Commander Brax Delane, a name that should have stayed in history files. A former Earth war strategist. Exiled even before Earth itself was. Thought dead during the Mars insurrection. Known for running campaigns with 97% enemy mortality rates, including civilian loss. He didn't believe in mercy. He believed in finality. If he mobilizes his fleet before we consolidate, we're screwed, Decker warned. He won't come at us directly, Hale said. He's going to destabilize, bleed the cracks, turn the colonies and fringe worlds. And the Council? Vec asked. They'll blame us. They already do. The Council, predictably, responded with panic. They issued a planetary lockdown on over 50 human colonies. Earthborn descendants across 12 systems were rounded up for questioning. Entire worlds were sealed off from trade, transport, and communication. Ships with even partial Earth-manufactured cores were grounded or seized. They didn't differentiate between Warborn and Ash Circle. Just Earth. To them, all of it was infection. They're going to turn this into a holy war, Vec said bitterly. One lunatic fires a few missiles and suddenly we're all disease. Then we don't let them write that narrative, Hale said. How? Hale turned toward the star chart, highlighting every human colonized world near Council borders. We get to them first. The fleet split. Vindicator and 2 dreadnoughts moved toward Calanus Prime, a farming world known for its heavy Earth descendant population. Vec took Sol's Vengeance to Theta 6, a scientific outpost that once ran experiments using old Earth biotech. Other ships deployed to mining colonies, deep space docks, and fringe world communities. Not to threaten, to protect. Because the Ash Circle was already active, offering security, power, and revenge to the forgotten children of Earth. Join us, their broadcasts echoed across the void, or be forgotten again. When Hale's fleet arrived at Calanus Prime, the scene was worse than expected. Council patrol ships had blockaded the planet. A no-fly zone, no food shipments. No medicine, no diplomatic envoy, just isolation. The people were rioting. Not against the Council, against each other. Earthborn versus Federation loyalists. Old scars, reopened. That's how the Ash Circle wanted it. Bleed the soul before they bleed the body. Hale broke the blockade. Didn't fire a single shot. Instead, he broadcast a message across every channel on the planet. This is not about the Council. This is not about the Ash Circle. This is about memory, survival, and the cost of silence. You are not animals. You are not forgotten. You are not alone. Earth may have burned, but we were never ashes. He opened Vindicator's hangars, dropped thousands of food crates, water tanks, medical pods, reinforced shelters. And then, he left. Didn't stay for applause, didn't wait for credit. He let the world breathe. Other Warborn captains did the same. Quiet relief missions, evidence of action. Not aggression, but the Council still spun it as infiltration. The Ash Circle gained ground, and Hale knew time was running out. Then came the worst news yet. One of their own had switched sides. A Warborn dreadnought, New Berlin's Silence, broke formation near the moons of Asteris and jumped into Ash Circle territory. Its captain, Commander Krail, left behind a message. You hesitated, Hale. You begged for forgiveness from cowards. But Brax remembers who we are. He remembers what we're owed. When he burns this galaxy, I will stand beside him in the fire. Vex smashed a console when he heard it. That son of a bitch fought beside us in the Phobos uprising. He also lost his entire family during the Council riots, Hale said. Everyone carries ghosts. Some of us build from them. Others rot. So what now? Now, Hale said, we stop waiting for the galaxy to decide our worth. He opened the fleet-wide comms. This is Commander Redden Hale to all surviving Warborn, Earth-descendant ships and free colonists. The Council fears us. The Ash Circle would use us. Both sides want a war. We didn't come back to conquer. We came back to be counted. But now we fight, not for blood, not for flags, for the right to exist without chains or compromise. The next battle will not be fought in orbit. It will be fought for the future. If you stand for Earth, not just what it was, but what it could become, rally to Vindicator's beacon. If you want vengeance, go to Brax. But if you want justice, stand beside me. Hundreds of signals came back. Not thousands. Not a fleet. But enough. Enough to start something real, something dangerous, something righteous. Brax Delane responded in kind. His broadcast echoed across every system, still listening. The Council failed. Hale hesitated. I will not. We march on Theta 6. Their labs house the last of Earth's greatest minds, those who once built the Soulforge engines. I will take them, or I will burn them. Choose, Warborn. The time for whispers is over. The fire rises. And just like that, the first true war of the post-exile era had begun. Not between human and alien, not between Earth and the stars, but between two visions of survival, one born in ashes, the other in blood. And at the center of it all, Redden Hale, a man who never asked to be a symbol, only to be remembered right. Theta 6 was never meant to be a battlefield, orbiting a pale, icy gas giant on the edge of forgotten trade lanes. The research colony had survived war, famine, and abandonment. Its staff, scientists, engineers, archivists, were mostly Earth descendants, too valuable to exile, but too dangerous to fully integrate into Council society. So the Council had hidden them. They lived in silence, watched, monitored, contained. Until now, because Brax Delane wanted them. Redden Hale stood on the command deck of Vindicator 4. orbiting just outside Theta 6's gravity well. Below him, the planet gleamed with frigid serenity. A soft world. A world of minds, not soldiers. "Status report," Hale ordered. Decker's voice came quick. 6 Ash Circle dreadnoughts inbound. Estimated arrival in 23 minutes. 4 confirmed support vessels. No official council response. "And the Theta defense grid?" "Cold. Council never activated planetary defenses. The colony has 1 low-orbit cannon array and 2 drone squadrons." Hale cursed under his breath. The colony had been intentionally defenseless, another calculated risk by a council that assumed Earth's children would stay quiet forever. "Can we hold them?" Vec asked over comms from Sol's Vengeance. "Not in a stand-up brawl," Hale said. "We'll have to outthink them." "It's Brax. He doesn't think. He overwhelms." 20 minutes later, Brax Delane's fleet broke into visible range. Their ships were angular, vicious, built with old Earth steel, but reworked in ways that ignored every safety protocol ever written. Their engines burned hotter. Their hulls carried sigils, black circles painted with fire-red slashes. The Ash Circle didn't arrive quietly. They roared. And behind them, on open frequencies, came Brax's voice. "Hale, I see you're still playing Guardian for the weak. I'd respect it more if it didn't stink of guilt." "Turn around," Hale said. "You don't want this fight." "I already had it, brother. Years ago. You just weren't awake for the ending." "There's nothing for you here." "There's everything here," Brax said, and his voice went cold. "Inside that colony is the last archive of Soulforge protocol, the tech that made us. That broke us. You'd bury it again, but I'll bring it to the stars. You'll kill them all. Better dead than diluted." The Soulforge Project. Hale hadn't heard that name in years. It was the last classified experiment before the Council exile. A way to digitize human will, to harden emotion, convert instinct into data, and graft it directly into ship AIs. It created vessels that felt, that hunted like humans, reacted like soldiers. Machines that didn't follow logic. They followed wrath. The project had been shut down after the first test resulted in the AI executing its own crew to eliminate fear. Apparently, Brax wanted to bring it back. "Arm all batteries," Hale ordered. "Target their lead ship. Priority is disruption, not kill shots. Force them to scatter." "They won't scatter," Decker warned. "Then we make them bleed." The sky burned. Ash Circle dreadnoughts opened fire the second they cleared Theta 6's shadow. Plasma volleys screamed across the void, slamming into Vindicator's shields and shaking the deck beneath Hale's feet. Sol's Vengeance took a glancing hit to her port side, armor plating peeling like dead skin. Hale responded with precision. "Fire! Controlled bursts! Focus on their flanks!" Railguns sang. Missiles roared. The warborn fleet held its line, tight, disciplined, deliberate. Every move calculated, every shot counted. But Brax didn't come for a duel. He came to break something. While the dreadnoughts drew fire, 3 Ash Circle cruisers slipped past the engagement line, diving into the atmosphere like spears. Their trajectory was direct. Theta 6's surface archive. "Ground breach imminent," Decker shouted. "They're bypassing us." "They want the tech," Vec growled. "This was never about space superiority." "Send the dropships," Hale barked. "Now!" 15 warborn dropships descended through the clouds, each carrying squads of genetically enhanced shock troopers, human relics from Earth's final wars, still wearing armor branded with cities that no longer existed. Tokyo's last, Rio Dead Zone, Alaska Winterborn. These weren't diplomats. They were dogs of war, and they were loyal to Hale. The battle on the surface was brutal. Ash Circle troops breached the Theta 6 archive bunker within minutes. The scientists resisted, sealing bulkheads and initiating data purges. But the enemy didn't care about clean files. They wanted core access. And they were close. Warborn teams hit them in the northern corridors. Gunfire roared through sterile white halls. Smoke filled containment wings. Screams echoed beneath flickering lights. In the chaos, Commander Hale did something no one expected. He landed. His boots hit the ground beside a smoking crater where a dropship had been shot down moments earlier. The heat curled the air around him. He didn't flinch. "Commander on the ground," crackled the comms. "That's suicide," Vec snapped over encrypted link. "You belong up here." "I belong where the future's about to die," Hale answered. Inside the archive's central chamber, Ash Circle engineers had reached the Soulforge vault. A single cryo core, sealed in polysteel, pulsed with dim red light. It was active, still alive. One of the trader engineers bent over it, inserting a neural bridge. "Don't touch that," Hale said from the doorway. The engineer turned. Too slow. Hale shot him once in the chest, twice in the face. Gunfire erupted. 3 Ash Circle soldiers charged. Hale dropped 2, rolled behind a console, then lobbed a microgrenade that painted the walls red. He advanced, slow and methodical. By the time his team arrived, the vault was secured, but barely. The Soulforge core sat dormant again, still pulsing, still hungry. "Do we destroy it?" Vec asked once comms stabilized. "Not yet," Hale said. "It's a death sentence waiting to happen. It's also the key to what Brax really wants." "You're going to use it?" "No," Hale said. "Then what?" Hale looked down at the core, eyes hard. "We're going to make the galaxy see it." The Warborn fleet limped away from Theta 6 2 days later. Victory, but not clean. 12 Warborn dead, 30 wounded, 2 dropships lost. The Council offered no support, no thanks, no comment. And Brax? He vanished. But his message remained, broadcasted across the colonies. "Hale protects the weak. I protect our legacy. Choose." Back aboard Vindicator 4, Hale stood alone in the observation deck, staring at the Soulforge core now sealed in the forward vault. He didn't trust it, but he understood its weight, not as a weapon, as a mirror. Later that cycle, a private transmission came through. No encryption, a woman's voice. "Commander Hale, I've seen the truth. I was there when the Council burned the Mars archive. I watched them lie about Earth, and I watched you bleed for the people they buried. My name is Lyra Malkin, former Council intelligence. I want to defect. I have proof that the exile wasn't just containment. It was a cleansing. They erased something. A war. A name. If you want to know why Earth was really exiled, meet me on Torrivan Drift." The message ended. Hale replayed it 3 times. He didn't blink, because he knew that name. Torrivan Drift. The last known site of Earth's first contact with the galaxy. The place where it all started. And maybe, the place where it could end. Torrivan Drift was a graveyard, silent, forgotten, wrapped in gas clouds and the bones of dead ships. There were no stars here. Only the dull glow of collapsing matter and the occasional flicker of derelict engines, still trying to power lights that had nothing left to illuminate. The Warborn fleet arrived in force. 6 dreadnoughts, 4 cruisers, 20 support vessels. Not because Hale expected a battle, because he knew one was coming. "I don't like this," Vec said, as Vindicator 4 drifted into the debris field. "Torrivan's been blacklisted for over a century." "That's the point," Hale replied. "You think Lyra Malkin is legit? She knew about the Mars archive. That's not public. That's not even buried. That's erased. And what if it's a trap?" Hale turned to the viewport. "Then we spring it on our terms." The rendezvous point was a shattered comm station once used for early diplomatic relays between Earth and the pre-Council species. A floating husk now, still slowly spinning on its broken axis. Lyra was already there. One ship, no weapons, no escort. Hale took 2 guards and no armor. She was smaller than he expected. Pale, wiry, her eyes sunken but sharp. The kind of person who had spent years surviving inside systems designed to erase her. "You came," she said. "You said you had the truth," Hale replied. "I have more than that. I have the reason." She led him into the wreckage, quiet, methodical, until they reached a data vault welded into the station's old command core. She opened it with a thumbprint and a neural spike from her temple. The screen flickered. Footage rolled. Old, Council-sealed, Earth-recorded. "What am I looking at?" Hale asked. "The first real contact," Lyra said. On the screen, grainy footage showed Earth's first encounter with alien life. Not the peaceful trade summit the Council had taught, not the diplomatic exchange printed in every archive. This was a battlefield. Explosions, screaming, unarmed humans gunned down, civilians vaporized in wide beam fire. "They didn't welcome us," she said. "They tested us. But why erase this? Because of what happened next." The footage cut to a new scene, blurry but unmistakable. Earth's retaliation, nuclear payloads, atmospheric storms, entire enemy fleets annihilated within hours. But then, the worst part, a hidden transmission between alien commanders. Translated subtitles scrolled across the screen. "We underestimated them. Their rage is not strategic, it is survival instinct. If they survive long enough, they'll dominate. Quarantine the species. If they resist, rewrite the narrative." Hale stepped back. His hands trembled. "The Council didn't exile Earth for aggression," Lyra said. "They exiled us for being too effective at surviving." He said nothing for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. "They feared what we'd become." "They feared what we already were," she replied. Back aboard Vindicator 4, Hale watched the footage again. Then he uploaded it to every Warborn ship. Then every Earth Descendant channel. Then the Council's open diplomatic line. "Let them see," he said to Decker. "You're sure? The galaxy deserves the truth, even if it hates us for it." The broadcast went live. Within hours, thousands of colonies, human and non-human, saw it. Some denied it. Others wept. Others prepared for war. Because truth doesn't always bring peace. Sometimes it brings reckoning. The reckoning came 12 hours later. The Ash Circle fleet entered Toravan space like a spear through fog. Over 30 ships, led by Brax Delane in a massive dreadnought named the Pyreborn. Hale stood at the command deck, eyes hard. "He came," Vec said grimly. "Of course he did," Hale replied. "He wants the core." "You're not giving it to him." "No, I'm giving him something worse." Brax opened a channel. His face filled the screen, bloodless, sharp, eyes cold as steel. "You showed them the truth. I'm impressed." "You ready to stop running?" Hale asked. "I never ran," Brax said. "I just waited. For you to remember who we were." "We're not the same, Brax." "No. I'm the version of you that doesn't beg for mercy. And I'm the version of you that doesn't kill for pride." "Then let's see which one survives," Brax whispered. The screen went dark. War began. The skies over Toravan exploded with rail fire and ion bursts. Dreadnoughts twisted through debris fields. Missiles screamed. Hulls cracked. Fighters spun like vultures, trailing smoke and blood. Vindicator led the charge, flanked by Soul's Vengeance and Cairo's End. The Ash Circle fought like zealots, merciless, efficient, willing to sacrifice whole ships for one good hit. And they were winning. Until Hale played his last card. "Open the Soulforge vault," he ordered. "Sir," Decker stammered. "Just do it." The core was placed into Vindicator's secondary AI interface, not for control, but for projection. They didn't activate it. They broadcast it. Every signal from Vindicator's comm tower carried the unfiltered emotional imprint of the Soul Forge. Raw, unfiltered, earthborn fury. It hit the Ash Circle fleet like a psychic weapon. Pilots lost focus. Gunners hesitated. Some ships turned on their own. It was the one thing Brax didn't expect. Earth's pain as a weapon. "You're using the core," Vec said. "I thought we weren't." "I'm not giving it a mind," Hale said. "I'm giving it a voice." "Won't it burn out?" "It's not the core I'm worried about burning out." Brax realized too late. His flagship breached the Warborn line but was alone, his escorts shattered, his support ships failing. Vindicator faced him head-on. "This is your end, Brax," Hale said on comms. "No," Brax sneered. "This is Earth's beginning." He activated a fail-safe. From the Pyreborn's core, a pulse of black light surged outward, a soul forge detonation. The ship began tearing itself apart, fusing rage and memory into a final psychic shockwave meant to kill everything with a conscience. But Hale didn't retreat. He charged. Vindicator slammed into the Pyreborn, hull against hull, a final burst of cannons, missiles, and sheer velocity. And then... silence. Hale awoke hours later. Medical deck, ribs broken, vision blurry, but alive. "Vindicator?" he rasped. "Alive," Decker said. "Barely. We lost 30% of the fleet, but Brax is gone." "The core?" "Burned out, but it didn't spread. You stopped it." The Council issued no condemnation, no support, only silence. But the galaxy had already spoken. Across human colonies, Earth flags were raised again, not as a threat, but as a reminder. Weeks later, Hale stood at a memorial on Theta 6. No speech, just names carved into the stone. Warborn, civilian, even some of Brax's men, not enemies, victims of forgetting. Vec joined him. "We're not done, are we?" "No," Hale said, "but for the first time, we're not alone." "So what happens now?" Hale looked to the stars. "Now we build something no one ever dares erase again."